Alrighty, this is Nathan Kopp presenting Lab 5 in HMI and SCADA using Factory Talk View Site Edition. I have already loaded all of the applications we're going to be using, and right now we're using Factory Talk View SE client in a presentation of the three objectives we had, or the three displays. So the first display, being our main, was supposed to have navigation keys to it, but I have used the Rockwell automation example and used a title bar for our navigation. So any screen that you're on, you can always use the same buttons to go whatever display or forward or backwards. So this one being our main, and then we have an input screen and an output screen, and we'll go over what those are. Then we go back to the main. Since the navigation keys weren't on what I originally planned for being the main display, I have placed login because I know they're used routinely in the workplace for designated personnel. And for this login, it's just to get into the parameters for setting the speed on our fake speed, and it was just something. So you log in, and in this action you need to use a username and a password, and then log out. Logging in would allow you interface with things in a real action, like say jogging a machine, something that not everybody should be able to do, or looking at particular screens for data and diagnostics. Here we've got clear navigation history, but this shows everything I just clicked as opening originally. I'll just clear it, whatever. For our input screen, I had to place 15 inputs. So I'll rack up the inputs. And for this one, I'll bring out the emulator, identifying what inputs are being used and which ones on the screen here are active. So start with 0. Technically I've got 16 up here because number 15 is down here, but as I click through the inputs and make them, use them as a priority, they become active. And there's 9, there's 11, 14. If you like to fast forward through this, I'm just going to make them all active just to show that they are all linked. And these were originally multi-state indicators, supposed to be multi-state indicator. Number 10. And I knew there was a different way, and I also had the images assignment for previous expectations in the class, so I wanted to use that. And these are all actually JPEGs that I converted to bitmaps in the idea of a theme. And I know that we're not supposed to get too complicated, but to utilize new tools and find ways to show them in a simplified environment, I went through and used pool balls up to number 15, even though now there's 16 balls. But so to use these, I went out, and I don't want to close everything just yet, but used the bitmaps, converted them through just a program I think is on every computer, Paint. I'll show this at the end, and saved it as a 24 bitmap image. That way I could utilize our images here in top left corner, leave the image box, bring the image in from an external folder, and then set up the tags, in which these weren't actually tags. I used the visibility and an expression, so that whenever the expression of the tag was true, they would become visible. And so I won't clear them all out, but let's go to the next screen. Minimize the emulator, input screen, output. This is our bar graph, and it's showing the digital output of the timer. And also these are multi-state indicators with 2 states on and off, and that is active when I press the start button. So it's being a momentary start button, I had to modify our code over here, logic, and I hit the, see if it'll do it. It'll close the screen. So pushing this momentary start button for starting the drive latched the drive status active latch, leaving drive status active, in which this indicator is tied to. Let's go over here. I don't know if I'll catch it. Stopped. So the momentary, when I hold it, says stopped, but then as it stopped, the indicator, let's go back over here, on the stop drive is the output is active, and I had to modify the rung so that this with a momentary push button would identify or would stay stopped, because a momentary push button without this the light would just turn off and then I wouldn't have an indicator. So the indicator shows stopped, started, or active, and push as many times as you want. The ultimately going through and modifying these, for the title bar to stay in one place, I used Rockwell's instruction and created a macro down here, title bar macro, using the display I wanted to use, and then displaying main underneath it. Now that we've gone through all of the expectations of the main input and output, I'll show you what I had done. I brought these JPEG images to the front, or to the desktop, and through this I just use open with, and then it says paint, and paint is a application that comes with the software and the computer as you purchase it. Most computers do. And then go under the save as. Under save as, it says JPEG right now. The JPEG itself can be turned into 24-bit bitmap, and it's already up here, so number 10, because I did this before. So you would just save that, and going back to Factory Talk View SE, you can close the client. Let's see, it will go displays, inputs, and on these inputs, as you want to bring them in, there is a image button up here that you just ambiguously make a square, and go into the properties, or go into 0, and sorry, don't go into properties. Right click, go into animation, and go under visibility, and it'll bring you to this expressions. You can press tag, which is tempting, but you want to press the expressions because we're creating an expression that's pertaining with the visibility. An expression, true state, visible. So whenever the expression I put in here becomes true, it becomes visible, but its original state is not. And this is where you can, and when you're in the expressions editor, you can click tags, go through your program, inputs, data 1, and then this as presented in class. So you need to be able to put the bit in there. So this was pool ball 0, identifying input 0. So I want to put period 0, and then I would hit OK. I've already done this, so I don't want to really play with a lot of it for submission, but then I would gone back, copied that, just because I have 15 of them to do, or I did 16. You could continually go into these visibility parameters and just right click and then change that bit after the period instead of going through the expressions every single time. And then you press apply, close, and it's linked. The visibility of the image is attached to the tag in the bit that the inputs are identifying are pressed. Great. Brought in another bitmap up here. So let's see, title bar, output, momentary push buttons. Yep, I believe everything is covered, and I learned a lot through this. Appreciate it. Thank you. Have a nice day.